Hello everybody, this is Simon with Let's Play Mega Man 7. We have 4 solid levels to choose from, and as usual I'm going to go with the one that gives me the most interesting weapon to play around with. Burstman also happens to be an excellent level to start the game with in general. Not too hard, both in stage and boss, and shows off quite nicely what Mega Man 7 is mostly about. I think a key difference in design philosophy to the previous entries is that this game is aware of being on a more powerful console and wants to show off in style. Stages are therefore more focused on having a fun theme with cool set pieces and less about purely technical level design. This doesn't mean that Mega Man 7's levels are badly designed, it just does not feel like it was first priority. But I mean, just look at the background and how much of a step up this obviously is from the NES days. The time bombs return in full force from Mega Man 6's Blizzard Man level. I feel like they're becoming kind of a staple of Mega Man games now. They're really quite a versatile design. This shotgun turret is not. I don't know what it's supposed to accomplish in general. What is very versatile, however, is Rush. We are going to see a lot of Rush coiling here. You would think that he would be less useful because the screen size is so small, but au contraire, if you accept that ceilings are an illusion, then Rush is quite powerful indeed, and we will use him a lot to skip and avoid situations that would be too dangerous or plain boring otherwise. This is a typical Mega Man underwater level, which means that as soon as we're introduced to the typical water physics with higher jumps, we're also instantly assaulted by spikes, which are still instant kill of course, but as I said, this is a good level to start with, so I don't mind that much. Also, what I really like in Mega Man 7, obviously, is that you can just quick select your weapons. Not Rush though, you have to go into the menu, but you can select out from Rush, so that's a good start. Later on, we will also be able to quick select Rush. In other games, I mean. This segment here is very reminiscent of a similar segment in Dive Man's level. Again, it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, this game, as far as level design goes, but it does have, as I said, some very neat set pieces. This mini-boss here should annoy me more because he has quite a lot of health, and I usually don't like that, but I feel that it's varied enough of a fight with a lot of things it gives you to do, and not just shooting and dodging him, that it's actually quite fun to figure out how to best deal with him, and it also gives a hint as to how to deal with the boss at the end. I'm trying something here which did not quite work out, which is actually good, because I can show off how this segment is meant to go, but don't worry, I'll show it off in a second or 3. The camera here is your biggest foe, but otherwise it would be really boring and easy. I think that it's quite finely tuned to avoid everything as you're rising up in this very interestingly buoyant water. And this is what I actually wanted to do. A speedrun trick. Of course it helps if you actually memorize where the obstacles are. But I wasn't too miffed about missing it on the main run. First because I can show off the obstacle, and second because, well, I did not memorize where everything is, so stuff like that can happen. Anyway, back to the buoyant water. It reverses basically the water physics you're used to, because now you're always float to the top. It's not about jumping high at all and falling down slowly, it's about rising slowly. Which is too slow for my taste, so I'm going to skip a lot of it with Rush. Also, this interesting jump here, which knows that you have Rush at the start. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's your introduction to the Yoko blocks in this segment. But fuck Yoko blocks, I'm not going to bother with them most of the time. Just to show off the puzzle here. It works like this. Oh, there is a trap here, which is great because it's over solid ground and doesn't dump you in the spikes. Hello, Heatman's bullshit level. But that also means that it's done and over with very, very quickly. This screen here is very reminiscent of one of the screens in the Game Boy games, specifically Mega Man 3 with Roman letters, one of the final segments of the final level. But again, if you're quick at with your trigger finger and with thinking, it's not that hard to deal with in general. The first letter to collect, we have 4 of those in the first 4 stages. After that, the collection gimmick changes a bit. Mega Man 7 has a lot of secrets and other stuff to collect in comparison to everything that came before, not just beat parts. And I will be happy to show off all of that as well. This segment here you best take it slow, because the buoyant water means that if you jump into it, the physics actually apply and you fall down a lot, far more than you might be comfortable with. If you jump from too high a place, you will plunge into the spikes, no questions asked. This guy's hilariously useless. Generally though, if you take your time, it's really not that big of a deal. There is a lot of spikes, but they should never be able to do anything to you if, as I said, you have enough patience and or know how to use rush correctly. I do both. Time for the boss fight. Burstman himself is very interesting, much like many Mega Man 7 bosses are. He has a lot of moves, far more than most of the NES bosses. He has also a unique reaction to the charge shot, which is also something he shares with some of the bosses. In this case, it actually goes to show that with the charge shot being nerfed to dealing only 2 damage to bosses instead of 3, it might not actually be a good idea to use it all that often, though you can use it to knock him back into his corner when he gets too close. Dealing with these bubbles here, you just push left and right. The yellow bubbles can't actually hurt you, they just push you around, but you can also shoot directly through them. Another use for the charge shot, but again you have to balance it with the small burst explosives he shoots out. Jumping through the bubble wraps here is actually not that easy, but you don't have to, as I said, just mash left and right and the buster, and they pop quickly enough. Otherwise, if you don't get that, then it's actually pretty hard, because you might end up in the spikes at the top. It's also what he tries with that move, but you really shouldn't be hurt by that. Though I did panic a little bit at the end here, so you shouldn't take Burstman too lightly. He can actually just instantly kill you, which is usually not a good design at all, but I think it's easy enough to avoid that it's completely reasonable as far as fights go. And overall a good choice to start with, as I said. Most people do not like his weapon too much, but obviously I am the guy who likes playing around with weapons a lot, and this weapon is phenomenal to play around with. In the Japanese version, you have a chance of auto or roll showing up here and talking with you about the newly acquired weapon. I have no idea why they took this out. It's always going to be light in the English releases, and I don't know about cartridge sizes or whatever. You also lose the intro text for the boss fight screens where the level select. It gave a short blurb about the level itself. It's a little bit weird, but it doesn't really impact the quality of the game much. And that was that. For now, thank you very much for your attention.